Start Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Peace to the God.
Peace to the universe. What's going on?
Not much, bro. Just working. Um, staying busy. I was um being yep. Hello.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that I was uh just working and doing two things at one time. I was trying to get some work done, and also I was watching the Jamie Foxx show along uh with doing some work, and then I started watching the Michelle Obama show, the show Later Daters.
Wow. What's that
Yeah,
about?
it's about dating. She has a show on Netflix called Later Daters. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody on the show is like 50 and above, and they're dating
Mm.
um at 50 and over, and
Hmm.
it's just kind of showing what that looks like.
Wow. I wouldn't readily admit that I'm over 50, brother, but I am a later dater because I'm still single. And
Uh, uh,
I
I
have no intention of dating or putting up with anybody's bullshit.
well, I don't know if that's the attitude to have, because
Which goes into our theme for tonight's show. You are listening to Black Mental Health and Race. I am your host, MF Doug, and my co-host is Dr. Moore. Welcome back, Dr. Moore.
thank you. Good to be back.
One of the themes for tonight's show is a definition of very bitter Black men. I know that you used to tell me about your dissertation was in uh, the depression in Black men. I wanted to see if we can expand on the definition of what is making Black men very bitter, particularly towards Black women. Um, the fact that you bring up dating in this show about Michelle Obama, I think a lot of Black men are in a toxic mindset, but not necessarily without fault or blame. Um, our anger seems to be towards Black women. I know we just had an election in which the very support, I believe, brother, in my opinion, I have to keep it to my opinion, um, that a Black woman needed to become the president of the United States was in part um, thwarted or unrealized because of the bitterness that Black men have towards Black women. I can use one example of this child support. I'm sure white men go through the difficulties of child support, and even some women are experiencing uh, having to pay child support, and it's created a very strong bitterness towards each other in terms of having to be unduly um, put in a situation where you're forced to pay child support. Not that you shouldn't pay child support, but it puts us at odds with each other. Black men, black women, and also just women against men in general. What say you to that introduction, brother?
Um,
Once again, I put you in a precarious situation with how many avenues that are presented, but do your best to see if you can go down one of those roads with me.
yeah, I just it's not challenging for me. I think I just might disagree with the premise.
Right.
Um, and when I say I'm being subjective and saying talking about me, right?
Yes, sir.
Um, I don't know that I agree that black men overall um are bitter towards black women, right? And now I it's interesting when you use the um the point of child support, right? I think
Yes,
that's
sir.
across the board with black men, white men, anybody having to pay child support.
Right.
You know, it's probably going to cause a strain on the relationship, depending on what a person's financial capabilities are. In fact, I have some friends, and when I say friends, I'm saying more than one.
Right.
That are men that are college graduates that
Hmm.
their ex-wives are paying them child support.
Right.
So, um, but if we talk about Kamala Harris and her running for president and whether or not she got support from black men, I think that well, not only do I think, but the statistics show, the stats show that she overwhelmingly um, got the black male vote. And while there were black men that didn't vote for her, overwhelmingly black men did vote for her. They did support her. In fact, the reason she did not lose because of black men or black people, period, because if you look at the stats and the statistics, it will show that the black vote, male and female, came out, you know, overwhelmingly to support her of the people that vote, of the voting population that vote, right? So that stat didn't change that much in terms of black men, black women, um, and whether it was just them voting for her or just voting democratically, But that voting block didn't change that much. Now, if we look at the polls, if we look at the statistics, what um, was interesting was that the number of white women that did not vote for her and did not support her.
Hmm.
you know. And so people were making the argument that white women went against um, voted against their better interest.
Hmm.
But there's another argument that says that they didn't. That most of them supported their husbands, and in supporting their husbands, they voted for their interests or their best interest,
Hmm.
right? And if I look at it, I think it was as much as I wanted her to win, and I'm, saying that, definitely was a black man that supported her. And, of all the people that I may know of all the people that I may know less than 5 black men of the voting population that didn't vote for her. Right. So, um, she did, I, it was a stretch anyway for a black woman to become president, and it's even more of a stretch for a black woman to become the first female president over a white woman becoming the first female president. I
Hmm.
think that I think that you know um, it was it was incredible. It was a phenomenal that we got the first female president and she first female vice president, and she was a woman. Now I think it was really pushing the envelope, and not only did we get the first woman, but vice president, but not only was she a woman, but she was a black woman. So now this already propels black women over white women, and I
Mm.
know that they felt some kind of way. So now to propel her to become president was really a stretch, but um, so the world showed us that they was not ready for. America showed us the voting population of America showed us that that's not what they were ready for.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that got off on kilter in terms of where you were trying to go with.
Now
Um,
that's right on point, brother. Right
okay,
on point.
okay. Now,
Um,
if we go back to what you were talking about with black male bitterness, now I'm not sure if you're saying bitterness in general or bitterness towards black women.
well, I think we can s- um focus it in on dating. Um, there's a lot of single people out here, particularly of interest to me would be the older black male and female relationship. And even if it needs to be improved or if it's in a good position as it is, and how does it relate to depression in black men, which is sort of like your um, area of research that you did. Um, but given the parameters that I put out there, let me do the disclaimer um, for the people, and then we can come back and talk about it in those approaches, or if you want to approach it from a different angle. Bear with me, brother.
And Adapson would find offensive, inappropriate, insensitive, and triggering. This content neither suggests nor implies medical or any other professional advice. This is a light-hearted discussion of a comedian and his therapist friend engaged in hypothetical conversation on black mental health and race. In no way are the following views and content associated or affiliated with this or any other platform that this podcast may be accessed. All information and opinion are independent expression of free speech that a reasonable person may freely consider adapting or opposing in their own paradigm.
Peace to the God.
Yes, sir. Okay. That was our disclaimer. You're listening to Black Mental Health and Race. We talk about a lot of subjects. We try to um, put them within the theme of both of us being black men and how we see the world. Um, we try to keep it as a lighthearted podcast, and we try to keep it um, specifically out of the realm of giving someone advice, but to see how do people think and how is the way we think affecting our everyday lives and the big picture of our lives as Black people. I wanted to define vitriol in its modern day usage. Vitriol means cruel, bitter, or scornful criticism. It is often described as harsh or malicious speech or writing intended to hurt someone. Are we intending to hurt each other as Black men and women, especially as we get older? The fact that Dr. Moore has brought up Michelle Obama's new show about dating older. How did you see the show? Did you see any animosity between the older black, not just black people, whoever the participants were on the show? How was the dynamic between male and female?
I thought it was positive. For the most part, there wasn't anybody that I saw that was like openly bitter. I
Mhm.
mean, if you came on a show like that, that meant obviously that you were open to dating.
Right.
Um, you didn't come on the show begrudgingly, like someone made you come on the
Hmm.
show. You came on the show because you were actually looking for love. You
Hmm.
know, at older stage in your life. So, um, so that everybody was open and looking for relationships at at that stage. So
Hmm.
that part was positive. I just looked at it and was like, I'm glad I'm not one of those people.
I
Um,
gotta go through that BS.
yeah, and that's what was challenging. Not that anybody was bitter, but everybody seemed very set in their ways.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, change is you know change is very challenging, right? For
Right.
anybody, regardless of your mental capabilities. Change is just a challenging thing, but change is inedible, right?
Hmm.
And I always say change is inedible. Acceptance is optional.
Hmm. Indeed, brother. Um, One of the things that stood out to me was is there so in association with the popularity of people like Kevin Samuels speaking to the hurt and pain of black men, or the so-called speaking to the hurt and pain of black men, because I don't believe that this hurting and pain is something that Kevin Samuels spoke to. But you can't ignore the fact of his popularity with black men and the animosity he generated willingly or unwillingly or inadvertently or purposely against black women.
I don't see it that way, bro. I don't see it that way at all. And I've listened to Kevin Samuels um, a lot. Um, and now I can see why black women would some black women would feel that way, and some of them would call and voice um, their dissatisfaction, their anger. He hates women, but I didn't see that like that at all. Um, and you know, Thirdly, Kevin Samuels never professed to be a therapist, right? He never professed to be a doctor, and there was nothing that he said that was not really um, like his opinion or coming from a coaching or a like like business model. Like the way that he described women was from a business model. Now, here's what I think. I don't think any self-loving woman should subscribe to Kevin Samuels, right?
Hmm.
If you subscribe to Kevin Samuels and you put yourself under um,
His
those
critique,
dynamics and
right?
and his critiques, then to me, that says a lot about how you see yourself, because you don't have to see yourself the way he sees you, right? Because he's judging you based off of a business model, right? And he's saying, well, according to the market, right? And he would say, well, the market would say, as you get older, your value depreciates. Now that's based on the market, right? But whatever market he's looking at, I don't think that if you don't see yourself that way, that you should, critique yourself that way. But if you go to him, then I guess you're gonna see, then you're gonna get what he's selling you. And he's basically saying, you know, hey man, if you 50 and over, you got kids, you know, your ass is washed up, you know,
Is
ain't
that
shit.
part of the business model, brother?
That's part of his business model. It's not, I don't have a business model. I would never rate anybody like that, But and I'm just saying that if you go to him, you got to know what you're going for, right? And he's saying, look, women, if you want a high earning man or a high value man, then this is the high value man, and this is the criteria for the high value man. So if you, according to Kevin Samuels, if you like 35 and over, you're done. And you have kids, you're done. You're not gonna get a high value man, according to him, right? According to him, like your stock
It's
start to,
over.
yeah, well, your stocks as a female, your stock start to, depreciate, with time, with age, with kids, you know, you're not going to get a high value man. I don't know that that's true. Um, I don't know that every high value man is looking for this younger tenderoni. Maybe, maybe not. I do know some guys that are that way, but I know some guys that aren't. So I don't know that that's true. But if looking at his data, his statistics, I can see where he's coming from. But again, I don't think that he's intentionally trying to dog women, right? But I
Well,
can see how women would feel that way.
I would say that calling women Big Shirley is very intentional and very bitter.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's. But again, if he's not calling all women that. If you call his show and you say, I'm 5'3", I'm 5'1", I weigh 350 pounds. And then you say, you don't tell me X, Y, and Z, you an asshole. And he says, look, Big Shirley, you get off my platform, you big B or whatever. You shouldn't call this platform.
You bought that on yourself?
Yeah, yeah, but he's not just randomly
Well,
calling women,
well, let's examine it from uh, um, try to examine it from an objective perspective. Is that bitterness on the part of Kevin Samuels?
I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't think so. Because it would be different to me if he was standing on the corner just rambling insults to random women. Then that would be bitterness to me, right? But if this is his job and this is what he does with his job, and he rates this, he does this, and you go onto his platform and then you say, well, you're an asshole, or you hate women. Well, I you know I am probably going to be looking at the person who's calling. Why are you calling him to call him an asshole? Why are you even entertaining that? What are you? I mean, this guy's getting paid doing what he's doing. You're going to take time from whatever it is that you're doing to entertain him. That's crazy to me. And then you're going to be upset with him for doing what he gets paid to do. That doesn't make sense to me. And then to say that he's bitter, he doesn't have to be bitter. I mean, it's because it's not like he's sitting there like what's the white guy that passed away? Um,
Rush Limbaugh?
Rush Limbaugh. He's just coming on saying crazy stuff about people for no reason, right? That's not what he's saying. He's not like I feel this way about all women, blah blah blah. He's saying, look, here's my business model. Here's the business model. Here's what the business model says. Here's what this says. You know, if this is this way, if this is this way, blah 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 blah. Well, you don't have to subscribe to that. When I look at my life, I always say, and I used to get into it with my wife early on when we first got married
Yes,
because
sir.
she used to listen to Susie Orman,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I really hated Susie Orman because the reason why I hated Susie Orman because according to Susie Orman, you know, I I don't ever make it. If I prescribe to her breakdown in terms of
Mm-hmm.
how you make money, how you become successful, because otherwise she had written certain people off.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't do this by this age, if you don't do this by this age, if you don't do in my head, I couldn't follow the script that had been written for a black guy a black kid, who never met his dad, who was born, raised on food stamps and welfare, lived in the projects, had all of these odds against him. If I'm gonna follow the standard protocol, I'm not going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I can't subscribe to that. Even though that's the narrative that's there, I have to say, fuck that narrative. I'm gonna write my own narrative. So I'm saying to look at Kevin Samuels, again, Susie Orman is just doing her job, right? She's doing her job. And then I can make the argument that, she writes people off or she X, Y, and Z, but I just don't subscribe to her because that's not going to work for me, right? I may as well throw in the towel at 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
The statistics is going to say, oh, dude, you ain't got a chance. Your mom ain't got a high school diploma. Your mom ain't finished junior high. You ain't got a dad. You in food stamps and welfare. You in the projects. Nigga, please. You know,
You're not gonna make it.
right. So there is that statistic. There's that narrative out there. But you don't have to subscribe to that.
You hear that, black women? You don't have to prescribe to the vitriol of anyone. Um, what is you think? What do you think? In your research, did you find to be um, any association with black men's bitterness and their depression?
Well,
Was there any correlation?
bitterness will make you depressed.
Hmm. How so, if you can explain?
Well, because what comes out of bitterness except for negativity? If you're bitter all the time, it's going to make you sad. It's going to make you draw within. It's going to make you feel. It's not bitterness is not going to make you happy, right? And so
Mhm.
if you're walking around and you're feeling bitter, bitterness is probably going to be associated with anger and every other negative feeling that comes along with that. And if you have all those things are going to be associated with a depressed mood.
Hmm. You're listening to Black Mental Health and Race. I am your host, MF Doug, AF, and my co-host is Dr. Moore. One of the themes we have for tonight, we don't offer any solutions, but we try to examine definitions and where we fit into the microcosm and the macrocosm of those definitions. And as Dr. Moore is stating, we don't have to accept the narrative of those definitions. But our theme for tonight is very bitter, fragile black men. Not that there are such things, but if we could have a conversation about them. Our second theme is trapped in toxic dynamics. That would include relationships. If you are trapped in such a situation, I concluded, Dr. Moore, and I'll let you elaborate on it in your own perspective. If you're trapped in some type of toxic relationship, don't have to be romantic. Um, but I think we can focus on that theme tonight due to um, the show that Michelle Obama is trying to promote of older um, people dating. How do we even get in that situation in the first place? How do we get in that toxic dynamic where we're single at an older age and more set in our ways? And is there a possibility that we can undo that feeling of wanting to be single and being comfortable with it? If we as human beings are supposed to be with someone, not necessarily so, but it would be ideal to have at least one partner um, or soulmate. Then what is your responsibility for you being in that situation, and how can you change it? Or are we just going to be, as older people, stuck in the void of being single and making excuses for that being what you chose to do, be single?
Well, you can choose to be single consciously or unconsciously, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and when you talk about, being stuck, um, the only way, I don't know how you could be stuck um, without it being um, a conscious choice.
Hmm.
Okay, so let me look at it like this. If you find yourself an older adult in toxic relationships, I'm gonna say this: old fools used to be young fools,
Hmm.
and so the reason why you are now an old fool is because you didn't change your ways when you were a young fool.
Yes, sir.
So now you just an old fool still functioning like the young fool.
Hmm.
So you are gonna find yourself in toxic relationships as an old person because you didn't learn how to not be in toxic relationships as a young person.
Come on, brother. Come on.
So there's nothing that changed about your behavior. There's nothing that changed about the way that you interact with people, male and female. And so your group of friends are probably a group of friends that haven't changed either, right? The
Hmm.
women that you're probably going to date are you're only probably going to date, not probably, you're only going to be able to date toxic people.
Hmm.
Because if you were to run into somebody that wasn't toxic, you couldn't date them because you couldn't relate to them not being toxic. So you are
Hmm.
naturally going to gravitate that to which you know. So
Hmm.
you aren't trapped in a toxic relationship. You're trapped in your dysfunctional behavior.
Speak on it, brother.
So you if you're looking to change that, it doesn't have anything to do with your relationship with trying to date. It has everything to do with your relationship with you.
Hmm.
So it looks crazy if you haven't done any work on you, if there's nothing about you that changed, what makes you think you're deserving or that you could even get into a relationship that isn't toxic? When you're toxic yourself.
Wow. You're listening to Black Mental Health and Race. Our meeting ID, if you'd like to join us live on Zoom, is 819-6724-8120. That's meeting ID 819-6724-8120. If you'd like to join us live on Zoom, it is Saturday morning at 2:21 a.m. at night.
Imagine this, bro. You're 50 plus years old, and you telling someone, "Yeah, I don't mind dating. I don't really want to hear your mouth. I don't like a lot of mouth." Right? You know, you just got all these standards, right, of who you are. But you want to
What you're
be
not going to change.
right. But you want to be. I don't. And to not think that what you're saying is toxic and crazy, but to think that you're saying something smart, right? I mean, what kind of relationship you think you're gonna be in? You just a
With
whole
whom?
right. No, your only relationship you're gonna be in is another fool that agrees that they can't deliver that either. So now y'all are arguing about, well, I told you I don't like to talk. Well, I told you I don't really like to be bothered. What are you doing?
That sounds like toxicity to me, brother. And it sounds like bitterness. It's something about growing old has made you bitter.
No, it's not growing old that made you bitter. You have always been. You were bitter when you were
Right,
young.
right.
You know, and
That's what I'm trying to say.
and you didn't fix that when you were younger. So now you bitter because you angry with your younger self.
Hmm.
You angry about what you didn't do in life.
Hmm.
What you wish you could have done, with that energy that you used to have that you no longer have. So
Hmm.
you bitter. All you doing is just projecting that bitterness onto somebody else,
Hmm.
right? And whether it be women or whoever or the world, but when you 50 years old, you got to think about what is it that you bitter about.
Hmm.
And I think you have to do some self work because why are you talking? Well, not you, brother, but
Yes,
why?
sir.
But why are you 50 plus talking about being in a relationship when you don't even know how to be in a relationship?
Hmm.
You don't even know how to be in love with yourself. How you gonna
Hmm.
be in love with somebody else?
Hmm.
You don't even like who you are. So even
Amen.
if even if you met somebody that said, "I like you," you'd be like, "What's wrong with you? I don't even like I don't even like me." You gonna be bitter because they told you that. Because you're gonna be like, "I know you gotta be lying. You can't like this. And if you do, what's wrong with you?"
Hmm. What was the first show that you said? You said mentioned Michelle Obama's show. What was the other show?
The Jamie Foxx Netflix special.
That's what I wanted to talk about, brother. Um, we're not going to go into a whole lot of accusations about P. Diddy, although there's a new revelation that now somehow includes, didn't I tell you, brother, that once they target one billionaire, they're going to get to them all. And we talked about last week, not last week, our last episode, about having some type of not only moral compass, but being your brother's keeper and trying to steer him back in the right direction when you see him going in the wrong direction. and it's not mandatory that you do so, but it would behoove you to help your brother out so that you have a mirror to help yourself out. Um, I know in the mosque, brother, one of the things that keeps us on the right path was the fact that you are your brother's keeper and you are his mirror and he is yours. So if you see your brother heading astray, you pull him to the side and say, listen, brother, that ain't, that's not Islam, brother. We made a joke about it in the mosque. No, brother, that's not Islam. But really, we were saying to each other, um, I don't know what you got going on, but try to stay on the program. And the program was building a nation. Um, that would be the microcosm for me. And the bigger picture is out in this world, we have to watch each other's back. We have to be each other's back. Not necessarily, it's not a duty, but if you want to volunteer for that, you may be able to help somebody like a P. Diddy or like a R. Kelly, like a Jay-Z, to avoid the obstacles that Black men face, particularly when they start to see some benefit from the hard work that they put in, so that they don't lose those billions like Kanye did, like Bill Cosby did, and wind up in jail. We have to make sure, at least among those people who are in that category of super rich, super famous, super influential, that there's some type of system or safety net to keep these brothers from falling one by one, as I predicted that they would fall in our last episode. Um, we now have what's the name of the show again that you said?
Which one?
The first one. The other one
Jamie
besides Michelle.
Jamie
Jamie
Foxx
Foxx.
person?
Yes. He's mentioning P. Diddy in his comic routine. Did you hear it? Because I hear that they had to edit it out for whatever reason, probably because Jamie Foxx didn't want it out in the public. But did you hear
They
him
didn't.
mention P.
They
Diddy?
they didn't edit that. They didn't edit that, and he said outrightly that that was a false narrative.
Wow, explain.
He said that the internet was going crazy with all these lies about um, how he got to where he got to, what happened to him, and that Diddy must have got to him. And he said it was, the biggest, misnomer, the biggest, didn't have anything to do with P. Diddy.
Hmm.
And he just really just made a big joke of it after he just dismissed it. It was like, you know, they said Diddy did this, they said Diddy did that, and it's like nothing that had anything to do with him had anything to do with P. Diddy.
Wow. So at least we know from a satirical or comic relief standpoint that Jamie Foxx is denying any um, allegations of wrongdoing.
Yeah, but bro, I am the last person to, when it comes to internet gossip, I'm the last person. I mean, I'm just the last person to believe any of the shit that comes up on the internet about
Mm.
anybody. I'm just not that dude. I'm not that person that, the internet says this and all of a sudden it gets wings. It doesn't get wings from me because I don't subscribe to that shit at all.
Mm.
You know.
Any
So
thoughts on Jay-Z now being accused by the
uh,
then 17-year-old girl of sexual assault?
well, they said that she was 13.
Right.
Bro, I believe absolutely none of that bullshit. None.
Mm.
None whatsoever.
This is one of the 120 potential lawsuits coming out of Texas for influencers and celebrities being charged with sexual assault cases associated with P. Diddy. Um, I wanted to just briefly mention that sexual trafficking. I remember, brother, I wouldn't put this on anybody to have to experience this, not knowing where a friend of mine was and having to go to sleep not knowing where this person was. I couldn't sleep for days. And it was a minor. And it really messed me up knowing that I had to try to sleep every night, not knowing where this person was. So again, brother, I wish to say about P. Diddy or anybody else in that circle. I
Well,
hope the things that they are alleging are not true. But the things that they are being accused of by these accusers is not the sexual trafficking that I experienced personally. Um, could you imagine a person underage not knowing where they were and they're close to you? I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, not knowing where your child is. Um, there are going to be a lot of cases in the public's eye that mimic or some form of sexual trafficking, but the real people that are suffering, and that's why we're going to get into the United Healthcare CEO public assassination. But there are some people that, brother, um, are not privileged to make accusations that are suffering as we speak, and you don't know where your child is. And there will never be any justice for those children, and some of them may never be found. And for anybody to take this type of trauma and tragedy to a civil court, not a criminal court, a civil court, should be the first clue that we really don't know what justice is. We really don't know what sexual trafficking is. We really don't know who's really suffering from it. It's another tragedy that Brian Thompson lost his life to some sicko, but the fact that they were able to find his assassin so quickly is the fact that he is under the protection of white privilege. Think of all the people that have been shot and killed to whom we will never find their killers. No one will ever go to jail, and no one will ever care. I just wanted to put that out there in the universe, and I'll let you respond, Dr. Moore, in any way you'd like to respond to any of those subjects.
I honestly don't know where to start. I mean, you said a lot, so
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure
I
where to start with that.
apologize. Yes, sir.
But I mean, the biggest thing was you start off by talking about having a loved one, uh, not knowing where a loved one was and what that feeling was like for you. So, that I can um, empathize that.
Yes, sir.
That had to be devastating, um, to experience that. And I, like you, wouldn't wish that on anyone. I think that is a really, really, really tragic um, event to experience. But I don't, when it comes to these celebrities, I'm always careful to not try to speak like I know or I have some um, insight into what was happening at any of these parties or anything like that, or who was participating and all the rest of that stuff. That's not my lane. So I try to steer away from that. I did hear Jay-Z say that, or his attorney say, on behalf of Jay-Z, that that he was um, charging the attorneys or whoever um, was bringing this lawsuit forward, and that he recommends that if they feel that way, that they should not start with a civil suit, but start with a criminal suit, because he believes that anybody that has done anything like that, it should not be a civil suit. It should start with a criminal suit, and that person who's charged with that, if they're guilty of that, then then they should be um, dealt with, in the way that a person of that nature should be dealt with. So that was his response to that. And that's as far as I know or I care about that, because, it doesn't serve me to want to think negative of Jay-Z or whoever. I don't even know if any of that teenage stuff with young people is true about P. Diddy. I think at the end of the day, when it all comes out, I don't know how much of that will stand, um, and how much of it will go away. Um, I think he's gonna suffer the most in the eyes of public opinion. Um, but that's a whole different world for me. I don't live in that world. I don't really operate in that world. So um, it's really kind of it really doesn't serve a purpose for me. Um, in that. Um, because I mean, they are real live people that are going, through things like that, and I think it's a travesty. But I think what's even more of a travesty is when people, I don't know if I should say even more, but I think it's unfortunate when people attempt to exploit people for money because they have money or because they are entertainers, um, and to put stuff like that on people's names because they are entertainers. I really, really hate that. And I think if it's real, I think if it's true, then I think that those people should be punished. But I really hate the nature of people um, that really just want to extort money from people. Um, I remember when Michael Jackson was living, and he was accused of all these atrocities and all the rest of these things that have not ever been substantiated. And people that receive millions and millions of dollars, and it was proven later, how people had put their kids, you
Mm.
know, and set their kids up so that they could make money, off of extorting people like Michael Jackson, you, you know. So I don't know. It just really gets kind of um, I don't know, gets kind of hazy, talking about or trying to report, on things like that because I don't really follow it or have enough information to talk about particular cases. I could talk about the mind state of people like that, but I don't want to talk about the mind state of a person like Jay-Z because I don't know his mindset. But if we're talking about the mindset of people that do horrible sex crimes to kids, that's something different. But I
Right.
don't want. But I don't want to fog the conversation with talking about Jay-Z or talking about P. Diddy or talking about a celebrity when I can't intelligently, articulate anything about their behavior or their personality because I don't know that.
I agree, brother. The portion of the statement from Jay-Z reads as follows. These allegations are so heinous in nature that I implore you to file a criminal complaint, not a civil one. Whomever would commit such a crime against a minor should be locked away. Would you not agree? These alleged victims would deserve real justice if that were the case. Um, and I would add to that point that Jay-Z made in his own defense. There are average citizens, black, white, or whatever, that are not receiving real justice, that don't, the crimes perpetrated against them in a sexual nature have not even um, come to the um, the arena of the public to even empathize with their plight and their sexual assault. We haven't even begun to listen to people that have been sexually assaulted. We haven't even begun to get justice from for people, the average normal citizen, to get justice. We have just put it in a big picture type of way by all of these allegations against famous people. The famous attorney Gloria Aldrich, um, she doesn't go after the perpetrators against average citizens. She goes after a person like Bill Cosby. Not that somebody shouldn't go after Bill Cosby if he's guilty of such, but the fact that normal citizens, people with no money, no power, no voice, are still suffering from the injustices of sexual assault should be something that we, as the public, would pay more attention to than the P. Diddy's and Jay-Z's and Bill Cosby's of the world. I think
Well,
that's the
I don't
point.
want to. I don't even want to put P Diddy and Jay Z in the category with Bill Cosby because they haven't been found guilty.
That is correct, sir. On a lighter note, brother, your boy, being facetious, do you remember the black man that jumped over the, um, what would that be called? The podium for the judge, HOLTHUS, um, and tried to assault the judge because the judge denied the defendant um, in his sentencing, denied him probation and was attempting to adjudicate him to do 5 or 6 years. Well, now this brother uh, is now being sentenced. He pled guilty for attacking that judge, jumping over her bench to attack her. He's now going to do at least 26 years as attempted murder on a judge. He's been sentenced today, a couple of days ago, to almost 26 years. He and his attorney tried to use the defense of mental health, and he was not in his right mind when he attacked the judge.
Oh, I agree. He was, he was definitely out of his rabbit mind. He really thought he was Superman or super something.
It's pretty impressive jump. That bench was high, bro.
Yeah, he was flying for a minute. He's like the Michael Jordan in the courtroom.
Well,
Unfortunately,
the judge in that case, who was the victim in that case, she didn't appear in court for the sentencing, but she had a statement to read to the court um, for his sentencing, and she affirmed that he indeed tried to kill her, and he should get the maximum time for that assault. And so he was charged with and found guilty of attempted murder on a
yeah. So
judge.
okay, so he was found
Yes.
guilty. Now, okay, so he didn't get what we called uh guilty by
Insanity.
right.
That was part of his um, defense for his plea of guilty, that he was not in his right mind, and that he suffered even as a child. And the the um, the biggest defense he had, he got some psychiatrists to say that he suffers from not being able to control his impulses and rage, which is
Well,
sort of the theme for tonight's bitterness against black men. Um, is it Bitterness, is it rage, internal conflict, inability to control our impulses?
Well, at the end of the day, none of that stuff really matters, right? Because at the end of the day, uh, you know, your bitterness, your inability to control your rage, all that stuff. At the end of the day, none of that stuff. It really doesn't add up to anything except for your um.
Incarceration.
No, what it adds up to is your inability to take responsibility for your own life.
Which is going to get you incarcerated.
Or going to get you dead. I mean, no, I was having a conversation with a client.
Yes, sir.
I'm not using any names or anything,
Right.
but the client was saying to me that they was harboring some ill feelings towards one of their parents because their parent didn't teach them this and the parent didn't teach them that. And that's one of the reasons why they feel like they keep making the same mistakes in relationships. And I said, I don't think that that's fair to do because at some point you have to take responsibility for your own life. And regardless of what your parents did or didn't do, it's now your life. And so while your parents did or didn't know, like, X, Y, and Z, that's not an excuse for you not taking responsibility for your own life. Right? Because, it you can't be 50 blaming your parents for not doing X, Y, and Z. Because what did you do? Because if you acknowledge that, well, my parents didn't do X, Y, and Z, or I didn't have X, Y, and Z, but my philosophy is not having is not an excuse for not getting. Right. And so regardless of what your parents did not or did not give you, at some point you have to take responsibility, to get that, to put that in, to add that in your life, put that in your life. I can't say, oh well, I never knew my dad. I'm 50 years old, and so I can't be there for my kids. You think my kids want to hear that? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't have a dad. But I'm not going to, do everything in my power to not try to be there for my kids.
Right.
No, I don't know anything about married life or knowing people that have been married for X amount of years, but doesn't mean that, I don't put my best foot forward to do X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for everything that you allow to come into your life. Right. And so you are responsible for the women or men that you allow to come into your life. And it says a lot about you and your accountability about who you date and why you're dating them. So if you go date a woman that all it was a physical attraction, then that's really on you because the person who's about to pay the price for that, is you and the child that you bring into this world or the children that you bring into this world. If you are in a relationship and all you guys are doing and all that you have in common is humping, that's a problem. And it's incumbent upon you to know that. If you don't have a healthy conversation, you can't have a healthy conversation. You guys can't talk about, meaningful things. You it's on you in terms of what type of relationship you have. And things are not going to magically happen. They're not going to just magically, get fixed. They're not just going to magically all of a sudden be better. That's not going to happen.
Mm.
It didn't happen for your parents. It's not going to happen for you.
Mm.
So again, when you talk about, if we start this podcast off talking about black men and their bitterness, it's that's crazy. Because who are you bitter with? The only person you're bitter with is yourself. The only person you should be blaming is you.
Mm.
Because the only thing that's going to make the world a better place is you. The only thing that's going to make you a better person is you. It ain't got nothing to do with no relationship or you being trapped in a toxic relationship. You're
Or
trapped in a
child support, for that matter.
But child support, all that still is on you.
Right.
It's on you and who you chose to lay down with. You go lay down with somebody that you don't know or somebody that's irresponsible, and then you blame them for being irresponsible. No. You go have 5 kids by a deadbeat dude, and then you angry with him because he's dead. He was a deadbeat before you had kids. Or you go sleep with a woman, and she's a promiscuous and irresponsible. She was that way when you met her. You thought she's just gonna automatically change, and now you brought a child into this world, with that person. What do you think? What do you think is gonna happen?
The key here is taking your own responsibility.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's all about you. Nobody's coming to save you. Your mistakes are your mistakes. It's not the government's mistake. It's not anybody else's mistakes. It's your mistake. Not the man, the woman. It's your mistake. It's you. It's your inability to take responsibility to work on yourself, to fix you. Because when you fix you, you don't have to worry about being stuck in a toxic relationship because you're too healthy to allow that to happen.
The first place.
You're not stuck in a toxic relationship. You're stuck in you. You're the toxic person.
The man in the mirror.
The toxicity that you're talking about is you. So I couldn't walk out here, run into a female, whether I was 50 or 25, 26, and she says the craziest thing to me, and I think it's cool that she ghetto. What the fuck? When I hear people say crazy shit like that, oh man, I like them a little ghetto. What? Oh man, I like them a little crazy. What? Then you get what you deserve. So at the end of the day, all this bitterness, why black men, all that shit just sounds like a bunch of excuses to me. Black men are bitter. Black men bitter with black women for what? The same bitter black men are the same bitter black men that are bitter because they keep running into the same bitter black women.
Keep making bad choices.
Well, they keep running into one another because they're in the same circle. And they're wondering why I can't meet it because you are in the same circle. You all are in the same circle. You got to get out of that circle. You're going around and around wondering why things are still the same because you're in that same circle. You haven't done anything to get yourself out of that circle. You can't meet anybody different. You can't do anything different because you're too stuck in that world that you're in.
They refuse to be open to anything new.
They can't be open to anything new because they aren't new themselves.
And so there we have it. You are listening to Black Mental Health and Race. I think I covered everything. What about this CEO, Brian Thompson, brother? United Healthcare, assassinated, publicly executed.
We won't talk about it.
If you want to. It's interesting how the person was able to get in and out of New York City undetected. I think that if he is the shooter, and that's what they are claiming, and they caught him in Pennsylvania at a McDonald's, he still has the gun on him that he used in the execution, still had the silencer on him. It seemed like such a professional hit from the way he was able to escape New York City and even pull off the murder in brought in 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 a public place in a city as big as and with so many cameras as New York City, and yet he gets caught in a McDonald's with all the evidence on him. I think there may be more to the story than just this lone gun assassin, but we will never know. Because in the court of public opinion, they've got him. They've got the guy.
Well, I don't know, bro. Again, I mean, I could sit here and pontificate or philosophize about what I think happened, but what I do know is when it comes to these insurances and insurance companies and insurance CEOs and the damage that they do with these companies in terms of canceling people's insurance policies because they have pre-existing conditions, and you have loved ones that are sick and they might pass away, and all of a sudden, you discover that this family member has been paying X amount of insurance for years, and now the insurance claim is not going to be honored, kind of like what they did with Malcolm X and his family, right? And Malcolm X's father and his mom had been paying these insurance policies for years, and then his dad gets killed, and then
they don't honor the life insurance.
Right. They say, well, no, he committed suicide, even though his body was found, on a train track,
bound.
Exactly, knowing that he couldn't bound himself to the train track, and all these things. And then, their family goes from, being able to take care of themselves to, being broken up because, the mom can't take care of the family. So the kids end up going to foster home, being separated, creating all type of mental anxiety for the mom, and she ends up in a psychiatric mental health ward. You can see how someone could see something like that or know something like that and feel a particular way about, insurance people or the head of the insurance company, and then seek some type of revenge. I'm not saying that that's the case, but I'm just saying when it comes to, these insurance companies and people feeling ripped off, you know that one of the biggest scams, in this country is insurance. If you have, insurance on a car or on a home or whatever, you can't even have a car. You can't even have a home. You can't even have, certain things without having insurance, regardless of whether or not something happens to it or not. You're paying the insurance, right? So let's say, I'm sorry.
You're
Yeah.
paying insurance for what could have.
Right. Right. So you may spend 20 years of paying for insurance, you know, and nothing happens,
Yep.
you know, and it may be 100,000 of you guys that may do that, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing happens, or something may happen to one. How
Mm-hmm.
much money has the insurance company made as opposed to,
Right. How
you
much they
know,
pay out.
right?
It's the business model.
Yeah.
It's not easy. One last subject, brother, and then we'll wrap this up. Um, there's a podcast that I watch, Brilliant Idiots, with Charlemagne the God and Andrew Schultz, a comedian. We know Charlemagne the God as the popular radio host of
Breakfast Club.
95.1 Power 105, right?
Yep.
Some of those call letters like that. He's a famous person. They are now saying that this new um, line in one of Kendrick Lamar's rap is about Charlemagne the God capitulating to um, the racist slant of Andrew Schultz's comedy or political views. Any thoughts?
I'm not familiar at all.
Hmm.
I'm not familiar at all about the lyrics, about him capitulating. I have no idea. That was the first time I've heard of that.
Yeah. I think you are in the safest position. Um, if we focus on rap lyrics or focus on um, celebrities and their political views, we are already lost, if you ask me. But it's a popular subject, so we had to bring it up. We don't try to tell you how to think on this show. We try to expand definitions to see what is behind the way people think and behave. We don't have any solutions, nor should we, but we are in an exercise during a conversation between two black men on how to think critically and beyond what may seem obvious on the surface to get behind the root cause. So, although there's no such evidence that black men are bitter, nor is there any evidence that black women are bitter, we wanted to explore the conversation and expand upon it by keeping an open mind and giving definitions rather than actuals, factuals. Um, I hope that you enjoyed it. And before we go, I'm going to leave it in the capable hands of my brother, Dr. Moore, to take us home, brother.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't know about taking us home, but I don't.
Leave down the block.
Yeah. Um, I I think that there are angry black men. I think there are angry black women, but I think the anger is misdirected. Um, and I think it's projected on um, people and things um, that it probably shouldn't be projected on. I think people are looking at their lives and they're probably angry about what has transpired over time, with people that they've had certain interactions with, and they're saying that they just, want good, healthy relationships, or a good, healthy relationship, and they can't understand why they keep meeting the same people or the same type of people, and that makes them very angry and frustrated, and it makes them very exhausted, with the idea of finding someone, particularly the older that they get, which adds to that anger or bitterness that you talk about, and why there's so many of them. I think there's so many of them in the world that they live in the circle that they live in, right? Whenever they walk out their house, whenever they go on social media, the world is circumvented with the same thing, the same people, the same energy. And they wonder why they are so bitter, why they're so angry. It's because they're constantly looking in a mirror every day that reminds them of why they aren't where they want to be. Right? They walk out of their house, they see the same men. Right? They go to the grocery store, they see the same women. They go on the block, they see the same people. They go on social media, it's the same people. They have befriended their friend group. It's the same thing happening every day. And they wonder why. They're constantly reading other people's sad stories, seeing people's sad stories, living people's sad stories, and wonder why they feel the way they feel. And the answer to that question, why you said that we don't offer solutions, I don't know that we don't offer solutions. But I could tell you that a way to a solution is to stop doing the same thing every day, looking for a different result.
Can't get any more basic and understanding than that, brother. But as simple as it is to follow, it's hard to conceptualize in our daily lives. And so we find ourselves making bad decisions, being in bad relationships because of it. Easier said than done.
Yeah, but only a fool, continues to do the same thing and expect a different result. And so I think it's a cop-out to say that's easier said than done. Well, if it was easy, everybody would do it. So if your cop-out is, yeah, well, that's easier said than done. Well, yeah, right. And so, we started early on in the conversation. I said, I used to really, feel a certain way when my wife would watch Susie Orman, right? Because I felt like the prescription that she was prescribing did not work for me. Now, I could have easily said, well, I grew up this way. I grew up poor. I grew up in this situation, didn't have this, I didn't have that. It's so I can fight these odds, but that's easier said than done. I think that's what everybody else does, right? So if I want to change my situation, I'm not going to subscribe to that's easier said than done. Because I understand that with that mentality, that is easier said than it's easier said than done. I understand where that gets those people. I'm not trying to be those people. So I'm not subscribing to it's easier said than done,
Mm.
right? I'm going to do the hard because I don't want to be in the place where it's easier said than done. Because that's where everybody else is that's not going any place. So if you don't want to go any place, then subscribe to it's easier said than done. But if you really want something different, don't tell me about you're bitter. Everybody's bitter. Everybody's angry. Everybody's, the black man, the black woman can't get. No, just don't subscribe to that. Subscribe to something different. Do
Be
something
open
different.
to something different.
Do something different. If you aren't doing anything different, then it's futile to have the same conversation every day. It's futile. It's futile to be doing the same thing every day because I didn't really want to do the work because it's easier said than done. I don't really want to do the hard work because it's easier said than done. But the majority of people ain't. Well, if you want to be, my mentality always was, I don't want to be like everybody else.
Right.
Right. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. If I'm seeing what that's getting the majority of the people, then I want to do something different because I don't want to be the majority of the people.
I think the one clearest thing that you ever said to me was when you went back to school, failure was not an option. Quitting was not an option. Being open to that, brother, was so revolutionary. And I hope that I have the same spirit and can accomplish my goals. I'm starting to see a light, and hopefully it's not a train coming, brother.
Bro, all you got to do, and I don't want to trivialize it, but I say all you got to do.
Yes, sir.
But just do one thing a day towards your goal. Whatever goal it is, do one thing a day towards it.
Changing my reality.
Do one thing a day, because the mentality that is easier said than done, that's bullshit. That's a cop out. That's not gonna get you no fucking place. It's like the people that are sitting around being angry with Kevin Samuels because he called him a fat back and they don't want to change being a fat back. You don't like the comment, you don't want to be X, Y, and Z. First of all, don't subscribe to Kevin Samuels. Second of all, do some work. Do some work.
And you got to change your mindset. If you're still thinking at 50 the way you were thinking at 20, you're the problem.
Hey, bro, I can tell
Not
you,
anybody else.
I can tell you, at the age that I sit at right now, I'm not where I am because I thought like I thought when I was 15 or when I was 20.
And thank God for that.
Absolutely. Because I could tell you even from the time that I met you in my early 20s, right? From that time that I met you, I was 26 years old, graduating from undergraduate, where you got people, the average graduate that's graduating from undergrad is doing that shit at 22 while I'm just getting started.
That's right. But you quickly leveled the playing field.
Well, I wouldn't say quickly, bro. The race ain't to the swift.
I was about to say that's the wrong word, quickly.
It's not. Hey, bro, it wasn't never quick
You were
about
steady.
it.
Steady.
Bro, the race ain't to the swift. It's to those who endure to the end.
It's a steady, daily struggle, but it's worth it in the end.
Don't call it a struggle, bro. Call it a comeback.
Yes, sir. And on that note, brother, we could keep this conversation going forever. It's always a pleasure to engage in high vibrational conversation with another positive brother. I think even now, there's a wicked um, what's the word? Wicked sentiment towards positivity. Oh, fuck that positive bullshit. It's gonna take you a long way if you begin to get out of your own mind.
Yep.
Because your mind is toxic if you think that positivity is not a thing.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So get out of your own way, black man and woman. Get out of your own way, universe. And be open to change. Because change is imminent. It's coming whether you like it or not.
Yep.
You just want to be on the top of the wave when it comes.
Yep.
I thank you again, my dear brother, and it's always good to hear from you.
Yeah, bro. Let's try to do it again before Christmas.
Yes, sir. We can do that.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. I'd like to thank the audience once again for listening to a podcast. We don't have uh, a firm schedule because of different responsibilities, but we will try to get more um, meetings in, a
Coming into the new
meeting of
year.
the minds, a meeting of uh, the consciousness for high vibrational positive energy. At least take a few moments of the day to do so in your personal lives. And I thank you for listening. And we greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Peace to the God.
Peace to the universe. Call you back, brother.
Okay.